trends on your regions of concern. And I'll say there was particular interest in South America. I don't know that we've got a particular South America expert other than Mike on the line, so we might be able to get him to answer this question as well. But the question is, first and foremost, what would be the impact of the need for renewable energy technology, which is going to be at the forefront in the future, and the materials required for that? What's that impact going to be on regional competition and global trade? And then what's the impact of deglobalization and supply chains on your regions?
Helima, you want to go first?
Actually, I think this is a great one also to pass to Markus, because so much of the discussion about the geopolitics of renewables is how much of it is made in China. If we think about sort of, lithium batteries, the control of the supply chain, the sort of refining process for that, the control sort of rare earths, relationships with countries that produce critical resources like cobalt in the DRC. And so I do think in terms of the broader policy discussion, a lot of it is going to be about China's control of the sort of supply chains of renewables and what is the geopolitics around that. So I'm actually going to kick that to Markus.
Fair enough. No, I've actually spent some time thinking about this. I mean, overall, I think you may recall the whole rare earths issue coming up some years ago. And as with some of the other phenomena that I described where China gets pushed back when it overreaches, I think an effort by China to exploit that phenomenon that was just described about how much of this comes from China would actually undermine China's then ability over the long term to have that. So it's something that that has potentially a short-term opportunity for leverage, certainly, and it's something that maybe is kind of be held over the heads of some countries and some companies, and particularly the potential that a short-term supply interruption could be really problematic for a nation or a large company that really relies on, or even a small company that relies on these materials and these technologies. But in the end, I think that the more that China would try and squeeze on that and leverage it, the more it would cause companies and countries to take advantage of opportunities to source these things elsewhere. And I think a big part of the reason, from my understanding, and maybe Helima knows more than I do about the subject, is the reason that China has an advantage in this area is because of price, not because of inherent systemic advantages that China has. And so if China starts to do things that end up driving up the price or reducing the supply, the world will adjust, and China will lose influence as a result. So it's one of those things, as I think many things with China, is that the threat and the perception is actually much more useful than the reality, because once they exercise that threat, the response actually undermines China's position. So maybe that's an optimistic view, but that's my take on it.
Judd or Alan, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I would just say that, this is for Africa is a Democratic Republic of the Congo issue. And so there's a whole sort of problems with that in terms of how much this will be another enclave economy that could, move that country in the wrong direction. For those of you who don't know, this is the site of Africa's First World War, where 9 different countries had deployed to get access to, at that point, diamonds. And so China has, I think, some inherent advantages to operate in this space in Congo that American companies can't, and our tech companies are trying very hard to be on the right side of corruption laws and labor laws and not fueling conflict. But I think operating in the Congo, where a lot of the cobalt and tantalum and all of these rare earths is a real challenge that I think it is an advantage for China, a disadvantage for us, and probably ultimately a disadvantage for Congo.
Alan, you got anything? Yeah, and from my perspective, I started working on Latin America in the early 90s and stayed engaged in it through the 2015 period. Look, I think the economic crisis of the day, with COVID and Brazil expecting a 9% contraction, Mexico higher, is going to be the near-term focus for the foreseeable future. So I just, looking past that, I think is hard at the moment. It's just such an overarching challenge. Good.
Great. I think we've got time for a couple more.
Yep.
So this one is definitely for